provided by our partners over at Ventura County. And today we're joined by Rebecca Cortez, who is a business services representative there, who's here to share more about the resources available to employers like you. Good morning.
Good morning,
Good morning.
everyone. Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you for all of you who have utilized this wonderful resource. As you can see, a hotline for you. Any questions that you may have, we highly encourage that you call and get your answers. This is a no-cost service provided by the Workforce Development Board. And like many other services, we do have a variety of services for businesses. If you are interested, I am going to leave that in the chat below with more details. And if you have any questions, I will also insert my contact information. But I want to just thank you for all of you who are using this complimentary human resources hotline service to you. And if you have not, please do so. It is a great tool to have in these times. So thank you, Anna.
Awesome. Thank you, Rebecca, Cynthia, your entire team behind the scenes for all that you do for employers in your county. So now I'd love to introduce our trainer today. We have Keisha Hansen, our Learning and Development Director, leading us. So you are in wonderful hands. And Keisha, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Anna. Welcome, everybody. Happy rainy Tuesday. I think we've summarized that we're all getting a little bit of rain today, which is great. If you are joining us for the first time, just very briefly about California Employers Association. We are a human resource association. We're headquartered in Sacramento, but we serve employers all throughout the state of California. Our goal, our mission, our philosophy is really to provide employers peace of mind by assisting them with human resource compliance solutions, using that 800 number that's accessible to you. You get a live person who you can ask questions regarding compliance situations. It can be as easy as what's the minimum wage in my county, or a little bit more complex, maybe you have an employee relations issue. So make sure if you haven't utilized that, and hopefully there's a good reason you haven't needed to, make sure you know that you have that resource. We also do trainings such as this, but also we can customize trainings. We can go on site to your location. We can do it virtually for your team, as well as we provide executive coaching services. So if any of that piqued your interest, again, you can use that specific 800 number designated just for you to give us a call and get some more information. And I want to give our lawyers peace of mind by reminding you that I am not a lawyer, or informing you that I'm not a lawyer, and that this presentation should not be relied upon as legal advice. If for any reason you are in search of a lawyer right now to assist you, we do partner with several lawyers throughout the state. So again, a good reason to give that 800 number a call, and hopefully we could partner you with someone in your area. So bringing wellness into the workplace, don't we need a little bit of wellness right now? In the short time that we have today, though, we're really just going to cover what are some of the issues, what is some of the things that are causing unwellness in the workplace. So we're going to kind of review what are some of the causes of stress and burnout and kind of refresh the definitions of those, because a lot of times they're interchanged and they're a little bit different to each other. And then knowing what some of those causes and stressors are for employees, what are some strategies we can think of to help manage stress at work right now? And if you're considering either creating a wellness program or just revising it, updating it, tweaking it a little bit, we'll talk about what are some key areas of focus that you want to concentrate on, and how you can go about starting to implement cultivating wellness at your workplace. So here's a statistic that is shared through Gallup. And if you're not familiar with Gallup, they're an organization based in Omaha that have done research for, I was going to say hundreds, about 40 years. And on all different topics. They used to be really active in doing polling during elections, but they have expanded and branched out, and they do a lot of research on employee engagement, employee well-being, not only within the United States, but globally. So they have a lot of good information and good resources if you're looking for some of that. But in their most recent survey on well-being, they identified that only 22% of employees strongly agree that their organization cares about their overall well-being. So in the chat, because Anna did say we love to be interactive and participatory, is that a shock to you? Any thoughts on 22%? So that's only 2 in 10 employees think their organizations really care about them, their well-being, well-being at work. Any thoughts? So we've got a lot of work ahead of us. um, but employees who do strongly agree that their organization cares about their well-being, it's important to point out, are 4.5 times as likely to be engaged on the job and 73% less likely to experience frequent burnout, which makes sense. I mean, when we come to work, which most of us, we spend about a third of our life working, maybe some of us more, uh, we want to come to work and we want to be able to do our best job. And if there's stressors, if there's triggers that are consistently showing up and appearing, we're not going to be able to. So as employers, if you're in a position of leadership or management, we want to identify what are those common stressors that are affecting our teams. Maybe you don't know, so you need to explore, but it's good information if we know what it is that's causing it so we can start looking at some solutions. So let's review. I think we're all familiar with stress, and it can be good. It can ignite certain emphasis on doing things, but it also can be very negative and impact our mental and physical health. So the definition of stress given here is really that feeling of being overwhelmed or unable to cope with mental or emotional pressure. And that usually shows up through our body, right? Either you might have sweaty palms or your pulse is racing, or you're getting brain fog because you just are in hyperactivity and things are really causing you to go into overdrive. You may feel dizzy. So your body's always trying to tell you, right? Because they want you to be healthy when these things happen. And it releases cortisol, and you might have that fight or flight response. So identifying some of the physical aspects can help us identify, well, I'm feeling this, what is causing that stress right now? And of course, we don't want to fall into chronic stress, which can be very debilitating and can impact both, again, our physical and mental health. So I'd like to start out with a poll. I told you this was going to be interactive, and see how you're doing today. I hope it's okay, but it's all right. It's anonymous. Are you feeling okay? Are you calm and you're managing your stress well? Are you just a tad stressed, right? But I've got things, I've got it under control. And maybe right now is a little break from everything else going on outside of the screen, right? I need a little break, so I'm going to attend this webinar and hopefully find out some things that I can work on. We all have experienced those feelings of being overwhelmed. But we don't want to get to the point where, unfortunately, you do feel close to burnout and need a break. So for those of you who answered, I'm feeling overwhelmed and I'm close to burnout, hopefully we can help you with identifying some tools to address those feelings and move forward. But we've been there. We feel for you. Hopefully this is a safe environment for you to just kick back and learn a little bit. But when we have those feelings that happen in our body, right? The sweaty palms or the heart palpitations, and we think, oh gosh, I'm really stressed and it's happening every day and I don't know what to do about it. It's really important to identify the stressors and, let me know if any of these sound familiar to you. Feeling like you just don't have enough time in the day, right? You're doing so many things in your personal life as well as in your work life. Another one is having unclear goals. In the last few years, a lot of companies and businesses and organizations have experienced tremendous change, and it's continuing. the tremendous change. When we have change, sometimes our leaders and managers don't communicate the change effectively in terms of we don't know what our priority is because we've been experiencing so much change. Which one are we focusing on now? Which is important? What's our game plan? And that's something that employees really need, right? In order to do their best jobs and in order to really thrive in their work, they need to know what's expected of them, even as it changes and it ebbs and flows, which work is always going to change for us to be progressive, for us to compete with the market and other organizations. So we want to stay updated with the pace of change, but we don't want it to get so complicated that our employees don't understand what our mission is, where are we headed. Having tight deadlines is another one, right? Really, maybe you're understaffed, maybe you're not, maybe you've gone through some layoffs, which some companies have gone through in the last year. Again, change. Any mental or physical health issues that you may already have, that can be extremely stressful, right? Wondering, what's wrong with me? How can I get help? Having poor relationships at work. A common one is miscommunication, not being able to communicate effectively, even though we have all the platforms in the world now with email, text, Slack, Zoom, everything. It seems like it's harder and harder and more challenging to communicate effectively. Maybe just there isn't that sense of trust with coworkers or with managers or within the organization, or feeling like someone's always over my back. And nobody really likes that feeling of being micromanaged. We want that feeling of independence and autonomy at the workplace. So if any of those resonate, kind of focus on, which of these are really impacting me to the extent that I'm feeling stressed all the time or that I can't overcome it. So again, the difference between stress and burnout is a little bit different. And they do tend to be used interchangeably. I'm burnt out, I'm stressed out. But stress is really that feeling of being overengaged, right? Feeling that pressure, having those tight deadlines, or not feeling like you have enough time in the day. Everything kicks into hyperdrive. And sometimes we have a short fuse, we can't focus, we're irritable. And then it can impact us really physically. So the primary damage will be physical because our body is trying to manage that stress, right? And sometimes it gets out of control. Burnout, on the other hand, is when, as a result of that chronic stress, you're disengaged. You are not having any emotions. You're very ambivalent, cynical, maybe about your work environment or what's happening in the work environment, feeling like whatever you say or do might not be able to change things, and it might result in getting some depression about things. So stress, the chronic stress, when it goes unmanaged, can lead to the burnout. And it's actually been identified by the World Health Organization as a occupational phenomenon. Burnout is a syndrome. And it's a result from having that chronic stress that has not been managed, right? You're continuing with those deadlines. You're continuing being understaffed. You're continuing feeling overwhelmed. And the World Health Organization characterizes burnout in 3 areas. So it's that energy depletion or exhaustion. It's the increased mental distance. So you might observe, if you are a manager of employees, you might observe an employee who used to be really enthusiastic, used to be really engaged at the job, and now they're just really cynical and they don't speak up as much. They don't offer opinions or ideas. And then the third one is reduced professional efficacy. So not giving that 100%, not feeling like you can give that 100% or 110%, as we say, to the job. So it can result in, maybe not meeting that deadline, making some errors. Again, some of the physical symptoms, maybe being in a constant brain fog. I don't know what to attempt to get done first because I feel that overwhelm. And yes, we are burned out as a nation. We're at an all-time high. This is from a study that was done in 2023, the State of the Workplace Burnout, and they identified age groups that were were experiencing the highest rate of burnout. And the ages The number one, as you can see on the screen, was ages 18 to 24 had the most burnout, and 43% were 25 to 34. Any ideas why they might have, what might have been the stressors or the factors for those to be reporting burnout, those age groups? Any thoughts? Well, the main factor, which probably is not going to come as a shocker, um, was financial insecurity, brought on by inflation and stagnant wages. And then the next one, very good, scarcity of employment opportunities. And even within the businesses and companies that they worked for, uh, not enough opportunities to learn and grow within those companies so that they could accumulate higher salaries. So again, when we have employees experiencing stress and burnout in the workplace, we want to know what some of those common factors are at play as a workplace, right? And the main ones, which again is not going to come as a surprise, is that job demand, is having an unmanageable workload, or too few resources to manage that workload. And again, as we've experienced massive amounts of change, and we experienced the pandemic, when a lot of people determined they wanted to take jobs elsewhere, a lot of businesses have struggled to retain the number of employees that they had previously. So it creates that extra workload for those who have remained. Next one is job control. Lack of being able to express any opinion on how, where, and when the work is done, and involvement in work-related decisions as we experience all those changes. Our employees are our front line. They're the ones who are observing and implementing these changes, and they observe that some of these changes may not work or they need some modification. So we need to be able to give them opportunities to express their ideas, their opinions, and have a say. I mean, at the end of the day, we may take a different road as leadership, but we want to have that input from people. And then the last one is workplace relationships. Being in a work environment where maybe there's not the ability to engage in healthy or constructive conflict, but the tension is really high. Again, having unhealthy relationships with a supervisor, manager, or coworkers, they lead differently. All of those things come into play in terms of increasing the opportunity for someone to experience burnout. And some additional factors, again, not feeling that organizational support, as we mentioned with that statistic. Only 2 out of 10 think their organizations really care about them as employees. During the pandemic, that was an opportunity for employees to really observe their leadership and determine, gosh, is my leadership really taking care of me during this crisis? Do they really have my well-being at heart? And many people, remember the Great Resignation, many people determined no, and looked for jobs elsewhere. Also, toxic leadership behaviors, right? Hanging on to those leaders who have not developed the interpersonal skills to be able to really build trust and rapport with their employees can have a tremendous impact on employees. Even if you're not directly the one working with that toxic leader, you're impacted, right? It has a domino effect, and it can create a very negative environment, which and ultimately prevents people from doing their best work and really having that sense of well-being at work. Unfair treatment. I mean, employees are always observing their managers and their leadership to make sure that everybody's being treated fairly and consistently. And sometimes there's a values mismatch, which means that what was being told maybe during the interview process isn't really matching up with reality. And maybe that leads to different values at play. So if you are in a position of management or supervisor, or if you as an individual want to keep a check on, gosh, what are the signs of being burnt out? Of course, it's going to include physical signs, headaches, fatigue, maybe digestive issues. Everything starts in the gut, they say. Psychological signs such as panic attacks or that sense of ambivalence about the job, the work that you're doing, and then just feeling really frustrated or irritable about the work and the organization. And then behavioral, as a result of those signs, I might again reduce productivity. I might, start calling in sick more, or it might make me feel isolated because other people don't share in that feeling. And when we do experience burnout within an organization, we're going to be more inclined to take that sick day, about 63%. 50% are less likely to discuss how to approach performance goals with their manager because, again, they've got that disconnect. They're disengaged. They're not as enthusiastic as they used to be. So thinking about future goals isn't really important to them. And unfortunately, we're more likely to visit the ER because of those ongoing physical symptoms, and more likely to be looking for another job, as did many employees during the Great Resignation. So, where's the good news, Keisha? Or how do we fix this? Well, one thing is we want to find out what are the stressors so that we can address the stress and burnout effectively and not just paint everything with one broad brush, right? Gallup, again, great source for a lot of information, in an article about how to build resilient and thriving teams, really emphasizes one area, which is ensuring employees know their strengths. And Gallup is well renowned for providing and creating a strengths assessment called the Clifton Strengths. And we do it when we engage employers with trainings, individual trainings, and we do it with a leadership program we have called LEAD. And we provide the assessment for the employees to take so that people really know what their innate talents and strengths are, and they're able to share it with their peers and their colleagues and their manager. And it really can help build that collaborative team because people are aware. A lot of times we don't know what we're coming into when we start a new job. We don't know what people's strengths are because we haven't talked to them. We haven't gotten to know them. So being able to identify your strengths and be able to speak to them and let people know in this situation, these are my strengths. And really, Gallup's philosophy is really that we should focus on what our natural talents and abilities are. That's where we're going to excel and succeed, and not focus as much on what our weaknesses are, what we consider to be our weaknesses. If you've ever been in a job where you just didn't do well, it wasn't your thing, it wasn't your niche, you weren't hardwired to do that, that can definitely lead to stress and burnout because we want to be successful. We want to do our best work and we want to be doing what we're interested in. The next one isn't going to be a surprise, but Gallup does recommend removing your abusive managers, right? No organization should tolerate managers. They have such a huge impact. Managers in general have about a 70% impact on employees' engagement. So if you have a toxic or an unhealthy manager, right, then you're really impacting someone's well-being in the workplace. So I would say bad managers are your highest risk, and you want to, before it gets that bad, before people are really complaining or people are miserable, you want to be able to upskill those managers and choose those managers, and provide them the training and tools that they need because the role of manager has really evolved over the last few years. And it's not just about scheduling employees and meeting deadlines and turning in reports. It's about managing people. It's about creating healthy and thriving workplaces. And most people who are promoted to positions of managers don't already possess those skills. Some do, but many people need training and development in order to adapt to what employees want from a manager these days. And one of the things they want is they want coaches. They want people to guide them on their journey, especially our entry level employees who are just starting their careers or within your organization. We want people to guide us and mentor us and show us that they're paying attention and that they're investing in us. And then part of that, if you are coaching and training your managers to be coaches, is having well-being a part of the regular conversations, which means having regular conversations with your employees, really checking in and building that trust with them. So another poll for you, another one we're going to address is that work overload. So I want to get your thoughts. You can use, if you have more of these, you can do more than one. What type of flexibility does your organization offer? All right. Giving everybody a chance. Sorry for the silence. Just looking and checking. Because this really is the way of the world. I mean, it's not really an option anymore. And I know we work with all different industries, so we know there's industries that require people to be on site for the nature of those businesses. But again, as it relates to well-being, as it relates to employees feeling that they have that work-life balance that gets talked about over and over again, flexibility is part of that. So let's see, let me share. I think everybody's had a say. So interesting. So about 60% of you have that hybrid situation, 2 to 3 days in the office, and also the opportunity to work from home. And then 20% full-time remote, 10% flexible hours. And flexible hours, if you're not familiar, can be employees choose their shifts, their work times, may be related to, again, their personal lives. Maybe they have things in the morning that they have to get done, so maybe there's an afternoon time or an afternoon shift. There's also a shift to focusing on productivity, not the hours that were worked. The 9 to 5 model, which is really, started during the Industrial Revolution, is being revisited, and is that what we need for our workforce? Compressed work week, which happens a lot in healthcare, longer hours but fewer days. The 4-day work week, great. I'm glad that you're doing that. And maybe you haven't started it because maybe you are one of those companies or businesses that everybody needs to be on site. But employees are really looking for some sort of flexibility within the workplace. We got that taste during the pandemic, not to say it didn't already happen, but a lot of us that hadn't had that opportunity got that taste during the pandemic. And we don't want to let go of it because it did create a little bit of a pause, a little bit of extra space for us to do things. I know at CEA we have a 4-day work week every other week. And it's great. We're able to schedule things on those days that we wouldn't normally get to do. So it kind of, if we have those stressors of, I just can't get in to see that doctor, or I can't get in to do this task, that it gives you that opportunity. But research does show still that hybrid and remote can be very effective in terms of lowering the possibility of stress and burnout. There can be stress and burnout with those positions as well. And sometimes people can feel isolation, but it really is something that employees are looking for, that flexibility, so that when we are overloaded, we're getting some time off to refresh, to rejuvenate, that other people are taking things on. So other ways we can address that work overload, that feeling of overwhelm, if we're understaffed, if we have too many projects, if we're expanding, which is a great thing. A lot of businesses are doing well and expanding, and it's a lot of change really fast. So how do we bring that together? The first thing is, again, taking a people first approach, building that trust and rapport. If you are in a position of leadership, really focusing on how can I help and support? How can I create that environment so that people don't feel that overload? Am I giving projects that are unsustainable? Do these people have enough staff? Can we afford to hire more people? And then, as I mentioned, the shift to focusing on productivity, not hours worked. If I'm getting the same project done in 6 hours instead of 8 hours, is that okay, right? Offering those flexible and remote options And also delegation. Many times, again, because that manager was promoted and didn't have the skills, they might not necessarily think right away, how can I delegate to my staff, or what can I delegate to my staff? It's an underutilized skill or tool for managers. But once you do that, once you effectively identify the strengths on your team, and also the interest, right? The interest of what they want to do and what they want to learn and grow in, it can really help alleviate a lot off your plate. And it can also help motivate and empower employees. And when you delegate effectively, then people really know their roles, and they know who to go to, and not necessarily always just you as the manager or leader. They can go to their peers and colleagues because they know that person is in charge of that project or that role, that task, and it can really help with fostering collaboration. So part of that is providing support and building that trust, really getting to know your employees, recognizing who's putting in the hard work. Um, Gallup will tell you that employees who are highly engaged are recognized at least once every 7 days. So that's appreciation, that specific appreciation for what they've done and what they've contributed. And what that demonstrates to the employee is I matter, right? Because my manager, my supervisor, or even my peer is telling me thank you for what I've done. It also connects their goals. If we tell them, gosh, what you did really contributed to the overall success of this event, of this project, it really gives people that sense of satisfaction. Getting to know our employees, asking questions, really making sure you have time to have those one-on-ones, just quick little informal things. So you're building that trust so that when people do have issues, questions, or they're feeling overwhelmed, that they will come to you. The majority of employees who don't feel like their employers care about their well-being aren't rushing to them to tell them their problems or issues. So you want to develop that trust with them. Also, just pitching in when everybody's feeling overwhelmed, pitching in and getting your hands dirty and doing the work transmits a sense of respect from employees, right? It's like it's not in your job duties technically anymore, but you show them that you can do it and that you're willing to help. One thing we do on my team at CEA is on our weekly staff meetings, we ask each other, is that anybody feeling overwhelmed? Do they have a lot on their plate? Is there something they want to unload? And then we also give that space for people to say, hey, I don't have a lot on my plate this week. I'm happy to help someone out. And it really demonstrates to us that we have support, that we have someone who's going to reach out and support us. And there's no stigma in saying that I'm having a slow week this week. And then when you're building that trust, when you're developing that foundation of trust amongst your employees, keeping in mind that respect needs to be maintained, right? That foundation of trust and respect, because if little behaviors and habits and actions, they'll start crumbling that foundation, and then you have to get it back. So knowing that managers, you're in a fishbowl, and that employees are looking towards you to set the tone and to walk the walk and talk the talk. Make sure you're adhering to all the policies and procedures in that employer handbook. Also knowing that, have respect in yourself as a manager. How would you want others to treat you? And, if people are seeing you making inappropriate jokes or using inappropriate language, then they're going to think it's okay. And then again, those foundations of trust and respect that you were trying to build can start to crumble. And that can have an impact on our stress and burnout. The next one is, how do we provide that fair and equitable workplace, right? Again, employees are looking to their managers to make sure that we are following policies and procedures and that we're being consistent and fair with everybody. So communicating to them, if they have a question about something being unfair or consistent, what is the process to make that complaint? Is there a mechanism in place? Is there a process in place of who you can go to? If anybody has any concerns, make sure you're going to act promptly to all those concerns and take the matter seriously. One of those descriptors of being burnt out is feeling helpless and hopeless, that if I say something, nothing's going to happen, right? So actions speak volumes in terms of okay, I'm going to tell, this person that I'm going to take action, then they're going to be waiting to see if you actually do. Train and model that sense of civility and professionalism in the workplace. And we have a different training to help you with that if you're interested. That really hones in on, what does it look like to have a respectful work environment? What does it look like to treat everybody professionally and in a civil manner? We don't have to be best friends with everybody, but treating them civilly. Now shifting a little bit to how do we take care of ourselves, right? Some of you we're feeling a little something, a little stressed, maybe even on the verge of burnout. Self-care is a word that sometimes we take very lightly, but it's so important, especially if you are in a position of leadership, because you're usually surrounding yourself with taking care of other people and other projects and all that stuff. So we let it slip by. And it's so important to be able to focus on you as the individual. So self-care is not just about going to the spa for a weekend, which is really nice in itself, but also just those day-to-day things. What do you need to happen? What do you need in order to improve yourself? To manage that stress on a daily basis. Is it going for a walk? Is it meditating? Is it getting a little bit of distance from that phone, which I'm sure everybody has sitting by their side right now? Is it getting a little, movement and dance? Is it resting? Is it laughing? Is it setting some boundaries, which we'll talk about in a minute? Is it venting to a best friend at work? Having a best friend at work can be very powerful because we can vent to them before we go to a manager, and then we can calm ourselves to have that discussion. So, any tips of self-care? What are you doing to make sure that you're managing your stress every day? We would love to hear from them. And know you have to have something. Put it in the chat. But again, individually, if we are feeling overwhelmed with work, if we're feeling that sense that everybody's dropping projects on me at the same time, or I'm the only one responsible for certain things and things are escalating, you want to think about setting some boundaries. And some of us are really high achievers, we're really responsible. We take ownership of anything that's assigned to us, and those are great. Those are strengths, those are superpowers. But people with those superpowers can be taken advantage of because we see, oh gosh, this person has, Janet is an achiever. She's really going to take this on and take ownership. So I'm going to keep giving her projects and tasks. So we have to learn to set some boundaries and say no. We don't want to create a divisive relationship with people that we're working with. So choosing boundaries over barriers. But we also want to figure out how do we do our best work and then share that with others, because we're all different as individuals. Some of us really like to collaborate. We like to attend all those meetings and get different ideas, and it boosts our energy. Some of us like to work independently, and we'll let you know when we need help or support. So finding that out about yourself will help you then share that with the people that you work with. Also, if you are being inundated with projects from a manager or coworker, finding out what their situation is, putting yourself in their shoes. Why does this deadline need to be done this week? Sometimes we need to know the why of things and really understand their perspective, and making some agreements. Okay, well, I can't work on that deadline right now, but I can get it to you in a week. Would that be okay? And again, setting up those long-term agreements so that it is a long-term relationship, right? And that, again, you have boundaries so that you're providing yourself that breathing room, that you're not just always on task and doing things. So next, we want to think about, for those of you who are looking to either create a wellness program or just a wellness culture, going back to Gallup, I love this phrase: when we ask people to think about how their lives are going, we gain a much broader picture of their well-being, right? So Gallup has identified 5 areas of well-being. The first one is what they consider the most impactful: having a sense of purpose in life, and parentheses, career, because not all of us are working at the same time to get paid to do a job. but we have a sense of meaning in our lives. We have a sense of purpose. But career can bring us that sense of purpose, knowing that what we do matters, liking what we do each day, and being motivated to achieve our goals. When we have that sense of purpose at work, or in our lives in general, it usually influences the other four, which is social. Do I have a sense of friendships in my life? Could some of those friendships have evolved from work? Or maybe I'm just more engaged as a person because I feel that purpose at work. I'm able to socialize outside of work. Financial, managing your financial life. So that reduces stress and increases your sense of security, right? Community, liking where you live, feeling safe, having pride in your community. And then physical, having good health. When we don't have enough energy and we're exhausted and we can't go to sleep, that's going to impact our physical. So that purpose, that sense of well-being, again, really can impact someone's sense of well-being for themselves. And why is it important to work? Why do you think wellness is important at work? Throw it in the chat. But these are just a few statistics. If you are thinking of creating that wellness program, you might be presenting this to leaders and explaining to them why. So statistics is always good to give. But poor health can be estimated to cost up to $575 billion annually. Mental health conditions account for 217 million days of missed work. And 76% of employees have experienced some sort of burnout on the job sometimes, and 20% very often. So it is impacting. It impacts our retention. It impacts our employee engagement, impacts productivity. So we want to be able to, as they say in this quote, support employees' well-being so that we create an environment where individuals can really thrive and prosper, and the organization prospers as well. We don't want employees who are simply just surviving, right? Just hanging on by a thread. That isn't the goal. So here are a few areas that you may want to consider focusing on in terms of wellness if you're not already, or just selecting from these what might be a focus for you in terms of is there something we can do at our organization regarding health and nutrition? Whether it's have we looked at our benefits program lately? Have we talked to anybody about the benefits we provide? Because there's a trend these days to kind of vary the benefits we offer according to the different generations, because we need different things at different times of our life, right? At 25, I might not even had health insurance. I might have thought I was just fine, but now I need my health insurance. It's really important to me. Are there things we can provide within the physical location of the work that really promotes health and even nutrition? Can we provide snacks? Can we provide water stations so that people always have access to those? What are the things that your organization is able to do in regards to that? CEA, we're a small but mighty company, and our CEO has provided a stipend for us, or a reimbursement per se, for health and wellness, right? And it can be buying that bike that we always wanted to get, or it can go towards maybe an insurance bill that we weren't able to cover with our insurance. But it's small, it's not super significant, but it shows that she really is concerned about our well-being and wants us to be able to use that. Is it mental and emotional well-being? Do we need to create some sort of program to help and support people? Have some access to a outreach that they can call and access for their mental well-being. And then work-life harmony. What do your employees need? Maybe you haven't done a survey in a while to ask people what's really important to them. Maybe it isn't about flexibility, but it's about something at the workplace itself that they not want, or it could be they want some more flexibility, or it could be I want to be able to learn and grow within this organization. So providing, and I want to be able to stay updated in my skills and stay competitive as the workforce shifts and changes. So professional growth and leadership development could be an area of focus. I'd love to know, are you currently offering any wellness programs that you'd love to share? that have been successful, or are you considering any wellness programs in the chat so that we all can share? As you're thinking about that wellness program, ways to promote social well-being. Again, if you are coming in, a lot of you had hybrid, and a lot of companies are focusing on bringing people to the office when there's a significant reason, right? So having meetings, being able to socialize, maybe you have a team building event, so people are coming into the location. And that gives employees, especially those who are now working remote and hybrid and different ways, and maybe even just in different physical locations, that opportunity to connect with each other. We're doing so much online. We're not connecting as much. It's something that we've seen employees, especially younger employees, want to still have that connection with people. So finding ways to socialize. Lunch and learns are great. A lot of organizations did that during the pandemic, virtually. Finding people on your team who can provide those lunch and learns, because we all have knowledge. We all know something that somebody else doesn't on our teams. So that's really good. But just having that opportunity to connect, and obviously food is a great uniter as well. Oh, I love the meditation session once a week, employee led. Yes, somebody has that skill, that talent, and possibly volunteering their time. So that's wonderful. And then, as we mentioned it for our younger generations, you know, the financial struggle is real, especially all of us living in California. We feel it, we feel the pain. How can we promote, in addition to looking at our compensation, what else can we do to promote financial well-being? Providing that competitive compensation package, what is important to employee, financial education workshops to know that people are setting themselves up for success, those incentives, bonuses, retirement planning tools, health savings accounts, discounts and perks. I remember my first job was at Hyatt Hotels, and I got a big discount at 24-hour fitness, and I was so excited way back then about that. And then thinking of, for wellness, taking time away from our organizations and our work to really give back to the community. And your organization may already be involved in the community. So another thing is to ask employees, is there any other projects that you would like to work on? I know a lot of organizations provide community days, so people are volunteering, or volunteer days, events that you can be a part of, or sponsoring people in the community for your business or organization. When we're giving back, you know, the saying is that you get more from giving your time than other people who are receiving it. So it can really impact and lower our stress, and really increase that sense of purpose, knowing that what we do matters. And then physical well-being, we already touched a little bit on it, but I'm going to emphasize again, what kind of flexible work can we provide? If we are in a physical location, what kind of workstations or environments do we provide? Do we have employee counseling available? Wellness investments, do we have that reimbursement or stipend, as I mentioned? Do we have mental health days? This is a little bit adjacent, but some companies have evolved into having no meeting days, right? So maybe Monday's a no meeting day and Friday's a no meeting day, where if you are feeling overloaded and overwhelmed with all the things you have to do, it actually gives you that full day to actually get things done instead of being in a meeting. Yes, it's also a team builder to volunteer together. That's a lovely one. So as you're thinking of either revising or creating that wellness program, also consider that you may want to partner with people, a local gym, 24-hour, or another one. And who are your providers of health insurance or brokers, employee assistance programs? All of these can be some sources to give you a little bit insight, because it can be overwhelming to think, where do we start? So a lot of these partners would know and give you some guidelines to help you out with that. And then the other thing is, why can't we have a little bit of fun at work, right? It is such a serious time that we're in. We're all aware of that. The changes within workforce, within our economy, within our society, we know the struggles that are existing. So lightening the mood a little bit at times can really impact the wellness culture, right? Really being able to just kick things off and have some fun. So again, if that's not your forte, if that's not your strength to set those up, or you don't know where to start, there's probably people on your team who would be really excited to organize something for you. Um, and also get that buy-in of people really want to do this, right? Rather than dictating to them that, okay, we're going to do this escape room, and 5 out of the 10 people don't want to do the escape room, right? Finding those things. But even in the everyday, just doing things again that can just take a little moment to release some stress from the day. So any ideas for that? Again, highly recommended. So overall, when you want to cultivate that wellness program, and we do because we want our employees to be able to thrive and not just survive, and ourselves as well, it is a shared responsibility. You want to create that foundation of trust, of respect, and observe employees, what are the triggers, what are the stressors, so that we can manage this together and we can come up with some solutions. What's going to be right for your organization isn't necessarily going to be right for another. So we want to know from our employees, what is it that's most important to them in terms of cultivating that sense of wellness and well-being that really is going to contribute to them succeeding. So early recognition about when people are stressed, making sure we're monitoring our employees, setting the tone. We know we as leaders are the example, and asking people how they feel about work. When they answer, that really determines how they work, right? When we're too stressed, when we're in that zone of burnout, we're not going to be doing our best work, and we're probably not going to be feeling that sense of purpose or that sense of well-being. And it's all integrated, right? I mean, employee engagement, a sense of well-being has to do with our environment, who we're working with, how we work, and how it's promoted and managed, right? It's every day managing that, and looking for different ways to do things so that we have that culture that really is thriving. Well, I appreciate your time today. I thank you very much. I hope you found some useful things. And I'm going to pass it over back to Anna to wrap us up.
Thank you, Keisha. I really love this training so much. Always find some little nuggets that I can take as reminders for my own self, personally and professionally. So I love that this was on the schedule for today. But we do have continuing education credits for you all if you are eligible for HRCI or SHRM. They're also going into the chat for you. HRCI code 719209, SHRM code 25-TUSYT. Please always reach out to us at CEAinfo@employers.org, or you can always call your complimentary HR hotline. We're more than happy to help you with redeeming those codes for credit. And then I do want to draw your attention back to the chat box if you haven't already seen those. I did drop the link to the next training coming up on November 13th. That's Leading Change, Surviving Change. It's a really great training that we're having on the 13th. So really encourage you to register for that. Again, it's complimentary thanks to our partners over at Ventura County. And then if you do want to consider investing in your leaders, whether that is a newly promoted supervisor or, a seasoned manager that could maybe just, use a little refresh in their skill set. We do have our final lead series of the year. It's a 5-week training. It's our most popular training. It is coming up next week. So really encourage you to click on that link and consider that. Pass it up to the decision makers in your company as well. As you see on the screen, as I mentioned at the beginning, we do have a very quick survey. This is also how you suggest topics that you'd like to see us give webinars on in the future. So if you could take the moment there, there's a QR code on your screen. A screen will also pop up once you click out of Zoom. So we really encourage you to take the minute. But again, thank you to Keisha for sharing your time and expertise with us. Thank you to Rebecca, Cynthia, everyone behind the scenes over at Ventura County for supporting employers in your area. And thank you all for, again, taking time out of your morning to train with us and to invest in the well-being of not just yourselves, but your entire teams. So we look forward to seeing you on November 13th. And that's it. Enjoy the day. We'll see you all soon. Cheers, everyone.